The Suns are 10-7 without Bogdan Bogdanovic. And a report earlier came out by Sam Amico saying that Clint Capella, John Collins, and Bogdan Bogdanovic are three players that the Atlanta Hawks are fielding calls for, meaning that they will trade one of the three players, as Onyeka Okongwu is the replacement for Clint Capella. John Collins has just been in the trade rumors for the last 2 years, basically since he signed that deal. And Bogdan Bogdanovic, a guy who's missed the opening start of the season due to a knee surgery. Let me correct myself right there. And this is a team that they're playing very well, but they still aren't shooting the ball well, which I'm going to shoot out right here. 3 trades the Phoenix Suns are interested in acquiring Bogdan Bogdanovic, as they lost out on the other Bogdanovic, Bojan. So right here, according to Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, Phoenix Suns remain interested in a potential trade for Atlanta Hawks wing Bogdan Bogdanovic, as, quote, league sources say Bogdanovic remains on the Phoenix Suns' radar. He checks a lot of boxes as a shooter, ball handler, and a rock-solid defender. The 30-year-old is yet to play this year. He's recovering from a knee injury. He underwent surgery on his right patella tendon in June and was expected to be ready by the start of the regular season. And he took part on a 3-on-3 action practice for the first time this past Sunday, per Kevin Chouinard, shout out AtlantaHawks.com. And Bogdanovic averaged 15.1 points, 4 rebounds last year, spending time as a starter and a guy off the bench, shooting 36.8% from 3 and 43.8% from the field. And the Hawks were 6.3 points per 100 possessions better when Bogdanovic was on the floor, which led the team among players with at least 200 minutes played per Basketball Reference. And he's a guy who's shown the ability to score off the bench and be a positive impact. He would be a useful addition for the Phoenix Suns, who have title aspirations or needing some deep wing depth due to the fact that Cam Johnson's out with a knee injury after having his own surgery. Jay Crowder is a guy that they are definitely doing this. So let me give you 3 trades. We're going to talk about all 3 trades. Trade number 1, Jay Crowder and Dario Saric for Bogdan Bogdanovic. Trade number 2, Cameron Payne and Jay Crowder for Bogdanovic and a pick. Trade number 3, Landry Shamet and Jay Crowder for Bogdan Bogdanovic. Let's go through all 3 right now, and let's talk about the first one. Jay Crowder and Dario Saric. No picks involved for either side. It's straight up for Bogdanovic. Bogdanovic goes there. Jay Crowder, he can play the 3 or the 4. He can guard the 3 or the 4. He gives them the defense that they need, and he's a league average shooter at the very least. Dario Saric, not really a defensive guy, but he's going to give you rebounding. If you ever want to go big, he can play the 3. He's primarily a 4, but he can be a small ball 5 for you. In this deal, you not only get yourself a guy, 2 guys who can shoot the ball, you get a guy in Dario Saric who could be a secondary facilitator, a rebounder, and a guy who plays multiple positions. You get a versatile defender in Jay Crowder and a shooter. That's the first trade. That's the trade I would do. Next trade, Jay Crowder and Cam Payne. Don't need to tell you why Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder going to give you rebounds, shooting, and defense. Cam Payne, this team's needed a backup point guard for the longest time. That's why you would have to give up Bogdanovic and a pick, or Bogdanovic and Aaron Holiday. Actually, Justin Holiday probably wouldn't want Aaron Holiday back. But with a pick and Bogdan, Cameron Payne on a multi-year deal, you get one of the better backup point guards in the entire league. Then you also get yourself Jay Crowder. But Cam Payne's been phenomenal. He's the backup point guard this team would need. And to pry him from a title contending team, you'd have to give up a pick at the very least. Now, last trade, which was Landry Shamet and Jay Crowder. No picks involved because Landry Shamet's on a long-term deal, bit of an overpay, but he's the shooter that the Hawks would need, and he would help alleviate the loss of a player like Bogdan and be able to contribute off the bench while you're also getting yourself Jay Crowder. Now, that's a good deal. In my opinion, that's one of the better deals that are out on the table. Personally, I would rank these deals like this. The number 1 deal is the Dario Saric, Jay Crowder not giving up any picks. The second deal I would do is for Cameron Payne and Jay Crowder. That way, even though it's a pick, you get yourself a backup point guard for at least another season, I believe it would be. Or maybe his contract expiring. At least you just get Cameron Payne. That's more than enough. You get Cameron Payne and Jay Crowder. And the last deal I would do is the Jay Crowder, Landry Shamet. You get no picks, but the downside is you're stuck with Landry Shamet's contract for several years to come. But this all benefits the Phoenix Suns because the Phoenix Suns get themselves Bogdan Bogdanovic. I want to hear your thoughts down below, guys. Like, comment, subscribe.